Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our 10-minute Bible lesson. We appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be looking again in the book of Jeremiah. So we're going to get started in just a little bit, but I have a question that I want to ask you. Did you ever have to do something that you really didn't want to do? I think most of us have had to do that. We just had to do it. We didn't want to, but we had to do it. I think that's the way Jeremiah was. Now, our situation, I'm sure, wasn't exactly like Jeremiah, but Jeremiah had to do something that he really didn't want to do. I mean, he wanted to do it, but he didn't want to have to do it. That is, he wanted to do what God wanted him to do, and that is deliver a strong message to his country. And that message, I'm sure that he didn't want to do it. It was about destruction and doom for his countrymen. And he did that, and he did it very faithfully. Now, the reason that he had to do that, in a way, was because God wanted them to know what was going on and that they had forsaken him. And that was what was happening. They'd started worshiping idols, and so he had to do that. Well, let's get into it and read some of the verses. You're going to see in these verses that Jeremiah is just sad. I mean, he's just sad about the whole situation. So this is in Jeremiah chapter 8. We're going to read that in verses 18 and 19. Let's look at them. It says, "I would comfort myself in sorrow. My heart is faint in me." Listen, Jeremiah says, "the voice, the cry of the daughter of my people from a far country." What in the world is that cry? What are they saying? Here's what they're saying. Is not the Lord in Zion? Is not her king in her? And now we're going to read God's answer. "Why have they provoked me," God says, "to anger with their carved images and their foreign idols?" So you might ask the question, is Jeremiah happy about the destruction and captivity of his countrymen? No, he's not. Of course he's not. In fact, his heart is breaking and he's filled with sorrow, and he wishes that somehow he could just comfort himself. But listen, he hears the cry of his people, and he hears them from the place that they've been led into captivity. And here's what they're saying. They're saying this: isn't the Lord in Jerusalem anymore? Isn't there a king anymore in Jerusalem? And so he hears that, and you can almost hear in this verse the Lord answering back, and God is saying back, "They've provoked me by worshiping idols." And so Jeremiah goes on in the next verse. Now this is chapter 8, verse 20. Let's read it. Now this is a short verse, but it's a sad verse. Now just listen to this verse in Jeremiah 8:20. Jeremiah says, "The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved." What in the world is Jeremiah talking about here? I think he's talking about time and opportunity. I believe that Jeremiah is saying the time and opportunity for making change and for making things right and for coming back to the Lord in humility and repentance have passed. And I think that's what that means when he says the harvest is past and the summer is ended and we're not saved. In other words, God gave them an opportunity. God gave them time to make amends. But sadly, they didn't take advantage of God's mercy. Let's go on and read some more. Let's read in Jeremiah chapter 8, verses 21 and 22. So here's what it says. He says, "For the hurt of the daughter of my people, I am hurt. I am mourning. Astonishment has taken hold of me." And then he asks this question: "Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? Why then is there no recovery for the health of the daughter of my people?" So notice that Jeremiah hurts very deeply, and he's hurt because of the hurt of his own people. In fact, he affectionately calls his people, he phrases it like this. He says, "the daughter of my people." And he says that he's in mourning. Now, why would you mourn? That's how he feels. When we mourn over the loss of a loved one, and that's exactly how Jeremiah feels. He's in mourning. In fact, it says in this verse that he's in astonishment. It's like, listen, he's in shock. He just can't hardly believe what's going on and what's happening. And then he asks this question, and he says this. He says, "Isn't there a healing medication for them? Isn't there a physician?" That's what he's asking. In fact, we could ask that same question today of our own soul sick nation. Isn't there a cure for our sin sickness? Isn't there a doctor anywhere or a physician that can cure a sin sick soul? What's the answer to that? Hey, listen, there is a doctor, and the doctor is in. And the doctor has a name, and his name is Jesus. He is here, and he can do that. And we know that he can do it. Now, it should break our heart too. We ought to be, and somewhat like Jeremiah. Jeremiah was heartbroken. He said he knew that there was a medication. He asked the rhetorical question, isn't there a balm in Gilead? And isn't there some kind of healing medication there? And isn't there a physician there? He said, we could say the same thing, and it broke his heart. It ought to break our heart about our own country. Honestly, we ought to be in the shape that it's in, and we ought to do that. Well, let's look at our last two verses. So we're going to move over to chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. Now, when I read this, you're going to see what I meant when I said Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet. Let's read. So Jeremiah says this, "Oh, that my head were waters, and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh," he says, "that I had in the wilderness a lodging place for travelers, that I might leave my people and go from them. For they are all adulterers and assembly of treacherous men." Listen, the condition of Jeremiah's countrymen was sad. In fact, it was so sad that Jeremiah felt like he could just weep and weep, and he could do that night and day. And not only that, but he says, "I wish that I had some place I could go and get away from it." I don't know if you've ever felt like that before in your life. I just wish there was some place I could go and leave my circumstances, leave the condition, go somewhere, get away from it all. That's how Jeremiah said. That's how Jeremiah felt. Because he says, "Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place for travelers," that he could just get away from his people because they were doing things that they shouldn't do. And sometimes we feel like that. Now, we're not like Jeremiah, because we don't have the same calling that he did. But it should hurt us, the condition that our country is. That's why this book, the book of Jeremiah, even though it's a sad book, it's so helpful and so beneficial, because we can learn and see what happened to God's own special country, Israel, and how they forsook him and what happened to them. Listen, can we learn anything from that? We should be able to. And so I hope that's been helpful to you. I know it's a little bit of a sad verses and sad part of the Bible, but sometimes sad things is good for us, and it helps us, I think. But listen, I want to just say thank you so much for joining us today and tuning in for a little Bible lesson. I hope you have a good week. And listen, if you would just share this video and share the like, and please join us next time.